Forget everything that you think you know about comics. Some say the battle of good versus evil is never ending because evil always survives. Some say that there are two types of people in this world, those who drink beer and those who enjoy a good comic. But damn it, we are the bridge. And to that we say cheers. We are your guardians, your watchful protectors from everything mundane. Because in the real world, you either die a hero or you drink long enough to see yourself become the villain. There's a war going on out there. How can you be sure you're on the right side? The ageless debate of what's right and wrong brought to your headphones with the simplest of solutions. With great beer comes great responsibility. And we accept that responsibility. For in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape our sight. We are Hop Heroes, bringing the relevance of great beer and comic book stories to life. Hello and welcome to another edition of Hop Heroes Reaction Episode Edition, the show where we talk about our favorite drinks and our favorite heroes. I'm your host, Jordin of Anchorage, and with me, as always, we have talented artist and comic enthusiast, JR of Auburn. JR, how you living?
Thanks, pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing swell, man, doing swell. And then we got our third host, Zachariah of Renton. How you living, Zach?
Living pretty good, bro. Living pretty good. I technically tell people I'm from Newcastle, but I just do that because Newcastle's bougie and I want people to like me.
And that sounds way more Witcher, to be honest. Zachariah of Newcastle.
Yeah.
Are you like the Bard of Newcastle, or?
Nah, bro. I'm definitely a Witcher. I have taken the potions and salves to mutate. Most everybody in my group died from those potions and salves, so there were no witnesses. But just trust me.
Just trust. So everybody died besides you.
Yeah.
Your eyes aren't red or orange, and you've shown no superhuman ability, but just trust.
Dude, I have shown superhuman ability, bro. You haven't been there to see it, so just trust me.
Oh, it's kind of like in Mystery Men, where Kel can turn invisible when nobody's watching. Is that the kind of power?
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about like all the fights I've won. You know.
I'm trying to pinpoint one of them.
Yeah, you weren't there. Man. Just trust me.
There's nobody else there. No survivors. So
there was no survivors. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm calling you Zachariah of Newcastle, regardless, because that's dope. So another reaction episode. We've been coming out hot and heavy with the reaction episodes, but if Netflix would stop just dropping hot shit, we wouldn't be recapping so often.
It's been a TV season for sure.
Oh, and then all these new platforms coming out with Apple and Disney, and like we're just going to be reacting, like just
to everything.
Always reacting.
Hey, that's not a bad time.
No,
it's not a bad time.
No, it's a good time. It's a good time. But yeah, if you haven't guessed already, we're talking Witcher, and personally, I was really excited about this one. Witcher is one of the games that I never played that I've regretted my entire life because it's supposed to be amazing, and it's on the list, it's on the docket, but I haven't got around to it yet.
Oh my god!
But it's a legendary game.
Can we level set though, JR? Have you played it? I just need to know what I'm walking into
here. You're walking into a minefield because I'd never even heard of Witcher until the show came out.
God.
So
Oh my god!
Obviously there was some heavy research.
What are we even doing?
And I'm really scared about saying a lot of the names. I don't know exactly what is what between. I just know there was a lot of nudity in this show, so I was happy about that.
So I was happy about that.
Was there a lot of nudity in this show?
Dude, there was nudity.
There was nudity.
There was all kinds of nudity.
Dude, I could hear the Cheetos and Mountain Dew in your voice when you said that. Dude, there was nudity. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I guess there was titties, but I mean, it's just so like everything, especially when it's medieval, you're going to see some titties. You're probably going to see some man hang loose, and it's just going to be a lot of it out there. So it's just like kind of comes with the territory.
I feel like it wasn't as nude as Game of Thrones.
No.
I feel like Game of Thrones was a lot more.
Or like Spartacus,
nuder.
dude. You ever watch that show?
Spartacus was the worst.
There was just big dick swinging everywhere in Spartacus.
That was...
Nah, I never watched it.
Dude, that was the worst.
But I just want to... So I want to level set here. I have played I have played The Witcher, and I put like more hours into that game than I would even feel comfortable specifying in this conversation. But I can tell you it's over 150 easy.
Oh, wow.
And so I have a hill that I'm gonna die on today.
Okay. Well, nobody has to die. You're just going out and saying you're going to die on it, but nobody has to die.
Well,
Maybe we're all on the same hill, picking flowers
and
and berries and shit, and just having a good old time.
Maybe. I'm anticipating that not being the case, but I'm
it's never
physically, mentally, and emotionally prepared to die on a hill today.
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet. We never have a safe, fun, healthy discussion about something.
No.
So that's fair. All right, well, although Zach is the Witcher resident expert for this episode, JR, you got something lined up for story time to kind of give us a breakdown of what The Witcher's about?
Yeah, we could do, obviously kind of, it's a great show, but we wanted to we don't really want to give away too much, but enough to give away the story. So just like a quick synopsis. It's almost like so obviously it's a show on Netflix that dropped, December 2019, and it stars the incredible Henry Cavill as, Superman. Everybody knows who is. I hope I'm saying that right. Is it Cavill? Because he says
Cavill.
It's like Cavill. I remember him saying that, Cavill. And he's got this Batman voice going on though throughout the whole show. But it follows the character Geralt.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
I knew I was gonna say it wrong. I'm gonna say them all wrong. I was trying to say it through the whole show. So say it again.
Geralt.
Jerry of Rivia.
Oh, Jesus.
Jerry of Rivia.
Tom Seinfeld.
And so this is kind of obviously they were calling him a mutant. Obviously he had special powers. He could fight, and it follows his stories along. And the princess, right, of the Citron. Say it again.
Her name is Ciri.
Yeah.
But her full name is Cerelia.
She's
from Citron.
And Yennefer of Vanderburg. And there's three storylines to come to a pinpoint at the end, and it consists of 8 episodes, and it's set in a medieval fictional kind of time frame, right? Like another fantasy world, and they're on a continent, or they're on a landmass called the Continent, right? And it follows the story of Jerry of Rivia.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Zach's gonna die.
It fucking hurts me so bad.
I thought you were gonna live, Zach, but you're gonna die on that hill, I guess.
You are gonna die. And anyways, they go through this like stories, and in the beginning it's a little bit confusing for me because there was like a back and forth, right, from the present to the future.
I got a little lost. Yeah, I got a little lost.
And showing kind of where everybody came from and to where everybody's going, so. Other than it's really
couple
hard.
Couple things.
Go ahead.
Let me jump in there.
Yeah, I feel like you
should. We're forgetting a very important character named Jaskier, who is the bard.
You would bring up the bard.
The show. Also, just to quickly explain what a witcher is. So a witcher is a child that essentially either gets sold or in some like worst cases stolen, or is an orphan or whatever, doesn't really have parents, and is kind of taken into this order. And there's various different orders. There's like the order of the wolf, the order of the snake, the order of the hawk, and they all kind of have different martial practices and beliefs. But essentially what happens is these kids are given these very toxic potions and salves, and the potions are meant to they do one of two things. They either kill you, or if you survive, they turn you into a witcher, which means that you're kind of like a superhero in a way. You're able to use magic, but you're not a sorcerer. Sorcerers can do shit witchers can't. You're like magic light, but you are like faster and you're stronger and you can sense things, like your senses go up and everything like that. And then most importantly, it raises your toxicity level in your body. So once you go through the trial and you live, then you're able to like take potions that normal people would just die. It's just poison to them. But for you, it isn't poison. It like, and all the potions have different effects and shit. Like, breathe underwater, stronger, faster, whatever the case may be. And so it's kind of like Bane almost. Like, but imagine like throughout the show, Geralt's always like drinking some shit, and that's him just taking different potions for different situations, basically.
Okay, I was confused about that a little bit. 'Cause, yeah, he has these little salves that he pops here and there,
and his eyes always get black when he takes his potions because it's bad for you. Like it'll fuck you up. But when a Witcher's like lost in the sauce, basically, like has a bunch of potions and salves and stuff, then they look more and more like a monster, basically.
Gotcha. Okay. And is that knowledge that you have from the video game, or did you like do some research? Like, if you were just to play the game, would it kind of explain that entire situation to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say this show is a pretty good adaptation of the game, or is it kind of a completely different story?
Are we just gonna jump right into what I think?
I think so.
Well, not your opinion. I'm just wondering if it's close to the game or not.
Well, you have. I mean, if I answer that question, then we might as well just jump into what I think.
All right, we'll save it then. We'll save it.
Yeah. We also should mention too that it actually their original characters and stories comes from a writer, right?
Yeah, it's books.
Books from
both the
Polish
show
writer.
and the game are adapted from books.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A book series.
What were the
And
books called?
The Witcher.
The Witcher,
Oh.
same thing. Yeah, and it's Andrzej Sapkowski is the writer, Polish writer of the novels.
Polish writer.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I guess, and they're like thick books. They're like huge, thick books, and very interested to actually read the story. So I'm pretty curious on how close, because yeah, there is a difference between like obviously following a game and then following the book story. So I mean, I guess we should figure out what the actual show follows, right? I mean, is it?
Yeah, it follows the books.
Okay.
It doesn't follow the game at all.
Okay.
I mean, if anything, it has like fan service a little bit to the people that play the game, but it's very kind of directly following of the books.
Okay. And it's produced by Lauren Schmidt, who is kind of legendary now in her adaptation ability, because I mean, she didn't necessarily write it, but she did write for The West Wing, which is a historical, great written show. She now has adapted The Witcher, and she adapted Daredevil to Netflix. So she's got some chops, and she's done a good job so far.
Yeah, I was gonna say some writing chops. It sounds like
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
So, okay, so Henry Cavill's in it, or Cavill. Lauren Schmidt produced. We know what The Witcher is. We have kind of an idea of what the storyline is. Now let's get some thoughts in there. So basically, The Witcher is, he's a freaking monster slayer, right? He just goes out and he kills creatures. He's a mutant. And from what I got in the beginning is he's not very welcome most places. Like, everybody sees a Witcher and like, oh,
people hate him.
Yeah, what the fuck is this? And in the show, it was hard for me to kind of take that in at first, because so he's evil, but he's not. Like people make it sound like he's evil. People like tell these folk tales about how they're hideous and everything, but he's really this handsome, fucking stacked, to himself person or entity that just defeats these creatures. And everywhere he goes, he's just like, people are talking shit about him, but then they realize how endearing he actually is, and he has a soft side to him. And so,
well, I also think that they're scared of him. Like, I think that their hatred often just comes out of fear, because first of all, he looks, I mean, although it's Henry Cavill and he's like super handsome or whatever, but like technically he looks like a monster. He doesn't look like a human because he has cat eyes. So like, ugh.
Yes, but colored contacts.
Yeah.
White hair.
Yeah. Yeah. But also it's like, The Witcher most Witchers can fuck you up. And that's like you're not the apex predator if a Witcher's in the room, and that's intimidating. And the other thing is that not all Witchers are Geralt of Rivia.
That was my question.
Geralt is
he an
very
outlier?
specific type of Witcher, and a very, first of all, let me step back. All Witchers are unique. Not all Witchers are the same. Like, they're all people, right? But there's not that many of them, and so the Witchers kind of have this story about them, right? Because like, you know, they take your money and they don't finish the job, or they'll just kill people for money. Like, you know, witchers aren't all good. And so, but there's not that many of them. So if you see a witcher and you've heard stories of like shitty witchers, then you're gonna be like, all right, this dude fucking sucks. Let's kill him, or at least run him out of our town or whatever. So like, they don't have a good rap.
Okay. So that was kind of what I was curious about. Like, are all witchers really just like misunderstood, or is Geralt the one that just
No.
has a good side and he's
Geralt is an outlier in that he gives a shit. One of the things that is kind of known or common with witchers is that they don't care about people. Like, they're isolated and aloof. Like, all they care about is their money and the job, and that's it. And that type of stance, combined with their power and their ability to like kind of take whatever they want whenever they want, based on their, you know, they can just fuck anybody up essentially, creates damaging and dangerous situations throughout the history of the story. And that's what's created this like kind of lore of witchers being shitty. That's why even in the show, like multiple times, there's people that will talk to Geralt and be like, I thought witchers couldn't feel anything when they go through the trial. Like, I feel like that line was said like 4 or 5 times to Geralt.
yeah.
And Geralt is the outlier in which he is a witcher, but he, you know, he gives a shit.
Okay. And for the most part, they're kids when they're turned, right? They're like children.
Yeah, they're kids.
And
yeah.
they're
all kids.
From what he said, there's only males that are witchers.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't sound like it was by choice. They're kind of just like
Nope.
picked.
Nope. Yep.
And so
Yep.
in that his whole background, you barely get a little glimpse into it here and there, and then there's some more kind of finite visions he has in the finale. But he seems to be somebody who was given the task of being a witcher, but is not a fit for it, like emotionally, but almost that gives him the strength to be the best witcher at the same time. It's kind of, at least that's kind of what I got. He's lasted so long and survived and wins these battles because of his heart more so than his ability.
He's yeah, I mean, sure, but he's also Geralt, like the Butcher of Blaviken. Like, I feel like it would kind of be an oversimplification to make the argument that like he's great because of his giving a shit, because like he's also one of the best witchers ever, just based on skill.
Okay.
Like, he's also a fucking savage even within the witcher community. So yeah.
Okay.
I would just look at it from both angles instead of just wanting to understand him. Another thing is just quickly, Yennefer is a sorceress, and sorceresses are, as they sound, essentially they are magic wielders. Witchers are magic wielders as well, but they just use what's called signs to cast magic, and they're very like, you know, force push, sparks in your eyes, like not like teleport, fucking thunderbolt. Like it's two different styles of magic.
It's almost like a magus. Do you know what a magus is?
No.
It's a character class. I know it's in Pathfinder. I think it's in Dungeons and Dragons too, but it's basically a spellcasting swordsman. So like they're not great at spellcasting, but they have magic ability, but they're more talented in combat.
That's pretty much exactly what a witcher is. So I feel like a witcher is a combination of a couple things: their speed and strength, physical attributes, their ability to, it's what's called toxicity, their ability to like access potions and salves and all kinds of shit to like enhance different areas for different situations, and then their signs. And signs are, like I said, they're you know, they're swordsmen, but they're just like, yeah, force push, like it's nothing crazy. But whereas sorceresses are fucking crazy. Like, they'll be like, all right, meteor strike, like you're fucking wrecked. So that's another thing. Ciri is neither a witcher nor a sorceress. I mean, I don't know if you really want me to get one. Ciri is a very unique character. I'll just leave it at that.
And Ciri is the princess that is tied to Geralt through destiny, which tends to be kind of a common, like, talked about thing is destiny. Like, everybody's fulfilling their destiny, following their destiny. And a lot of times they know what the destiny is, because of, it seems like, the law of surprise, which seems to make its
law of surprise
appearance very often. And speaking of which, Zach, so the law of surprise is Basically, if you owe somebody something, they'll claim the law of surprise. So something that you don't know that you are in possession of is
Yeah, so the law of surprise is, so if I was like, all right, Jordan, you owe me something and I'm going to invoke the law of surprise, then what that means is that the next thing that you get is actually mine. But I don't know what that is, and neither do you.
yeah.
And so what happened was the law of surprise was invoked, and then like, oh, it was a child. Like the next thing they found out was that Ciri's mom was pregnant, which made Ciri not her parents', but actually Geralt's.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that shit's mine now, and he didn't want it.
Yep.
He was just like, whatever, the law of surprise. And it seems like both times
Like he thought he was gonna get like a pencil or something.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting a child.
It's almost like a just like common like just civil request. It's like supposed to be like just like a respect thing, like law of surprise. Whatever you get next, like it's mine. And Zach, you and Alicia came up a couple months ago and stayed at our place up here, and we had like a guest room, like room and board, didn't charge you anything like that. So I'm gonna invoke the law of surprise. So just keep that in mind. Next thing you get,
God damn it,
it's gonna be mine. But no, when I look at the show, I broke it down into kind of pockets. I had like episodes 1 through 3 were kind of like the base setting. Episodes 4 through 7 were kind of like the shit started happening. You're kind of getting an understanding of the backstory, and then episode 8 it's just like this finale where shit went just havoc. So first 3 episodes, initial thoughts. What do you guys think? Was this first 3 episodes like? Did they do a good job of kind of creating the landscape, understanding the houses and the people, and understanding the characters in it? JR, what do you think?
I think for the main characters, yes. I didn't understand where things were going, I guess is what I should say. You know what I mean? Like I understood right away who and what, and kind of the good guys and bad guys kind of scenario, but like storyline plot, it was a little bit confusing because I felt like either I was getting lost in the time frame or I was getting lost on kind of, I guess, where he was going, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Witcher, compared to later on where you kind of start, and maybe that was on purpose, because I would tell you the last, set of episodes, I was able to understand and fly through it, instead of like pause and try and realize what's going on. But other than that, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I thought about the first show. I was a little bit confused in the beginning, honestly.
Okay. And I would agree with that. I think that for the most part, the show is like, there is an ongoing story. But let me ask, did you binge this all, or did you kind of break it up and watch it when you could?
I broke it up and I watched it when I could. So I started, I finished this like almost 2 weeks ago, but I watched, like the first 2 right away.
Damn, he does his homework, Jordan. That's crazy.
What are you trying to say, dog?
Well, there's a lot of these things.
Who cares
like
if I finished this 30 minutes ago?
I know.
I definitely did.
Well, for stuff like this, I definitely want to be ahead on, because one, I know I'm going to get all the names wrong, even though I heard it like 5 million times. And 2, there's things about this that's not like comic book stuff where I've read it, Like if I had read the books, I would be more comfortable about the show and take my time. But there was a lot of things I needed to research on this. But it was definitely
it's
it
hard to
was fun
follow
watch.
when you pop in and out. It's definitely fun to watch, but I definitely like I watch it the same way. I watch a couple episodes, and then a couple episodes, and I'd watch it at the gym every once in a while because I work out a lot and stuff. And I found myself. Don't laugh too hard. I found myself kind of like a little confused on the timeline. Didn't know like because like the first episode has shit that happens, and then when Geralt comes in, it's actually way prior, and it doesn't really explain that thoroughly. You kind of have to like realize it as you're going.
Just have to figure that out on your own. It jumps around on timeline, and the way that it navigates that is often through like one-off lines. Like Jaskier will be like, "Oh, Geralt, I haven't seen you in a year," and then like, boom, more dialogue, scene changes. And if you don't catch that, like if you don't catch those, if you're like texting or something or on Twitter or something, then you could very easily look up and be like, "What the fuck is going on right now?"
Yeah.
And that the show just kind of and I don't hate that actually, but I think that you should be aware of that as a viewer, because I feel like um, it really puts the onus on the viewer. Like, listen, you gotta
Pay
you gotta
attention.
be
Yeah.
engaged.
Yeah.
Because if you're not engaged, you're gonna miss it.
That definitely
Mhm.
happened to me. And the other thing that kind of showed me that it was bouncing around was the way that the Witcher looked. You know what I mean? Because there were scenes where he was like nasty and dirty for the most part, and then there are scenes where he's like clean and new clothes and his attitude's different. And that was the other
Mhm.
way that probably around episode 4, episode 5, where you kind of start seeing, okay, wait, now I'm seeing the back and the time frames change here because of the way he looks. Because I was
Mhm.
totally confused about the battle and the princess and the queen and the granddaughter. They're in battle. Then they go back to, where she's talking to her granddaughter. And then she's back to the scene where her daughter's getting, engaged to the mole person or what does she call it? The hedgehog. And
Yeah, the Hedgehog Knight or whatever.
yeah. So there was that mixture, and it wasn't in the beginning. It wasn't that clear for sure. Like he was dirty all the time, so I figured that was the present. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
So his hygiene was your pinpoint of where we're
absolutely.
at in the timeline.
And then you stuck in Yennefer's, and Yennefer's was even worse for me to figure out when until she got her surgery or whatever that she had. So there are some hints. You're right. There's hints that you can't, like, normally you watch a movie and they tell you like present, like, you know what I mean, with dates and 30 years
Like
prior.
sometimes there'll be like literal text on the
Yeah,
frame,
and
like
that's not-
3 years later.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, there was like none of that.
not at all.
No, you're on your own, and that's why, like, I don't know if Netflix is expecting like people just to binge nowadays, because like if you binge this, it's probably much easier to stay and follow. But like 8 hours of binging, I mean, unless it's Stranger Things, that's a lot to dedicate yourself to. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I found myself caught in the weeds. I was really like, I thought there was two queens and they just looked very similar and they were both badasses. And then I realized the lioness was actually her. I mean, I got it eventually, but I was like, God damn, there's very similar looking people. And then like the white haired girls are everywhere. Like there's two of them. I thought there was like the twins from the Matrix
There's a lot
Reloaded.
of twins in this show.
Yeah, like what the hell? And I was actually, honestly, I was relieved because I was mad when the king got killed. Like they were like, she was one of my favorite characters in the beginning, and then she got murked, and then she came back. Okay, cool. So she's still here, and she's still a badass. But yeah, so I guess my question is pretty much answered by JR. I think that they did a good job. I think that the characters were pretty likable, and the environment was really cool. And there's just a little bit of confusion in the timeline. And then we go into like it kind of sets up who Geralt is, sets up who Yennefer is. And Yennefer has the biggest kind of, I would say, transformation, obviously, throughout the series or the season.
Mm-hmm.
But she starts off as this just
Hunchback.
Got like a crooked jaw, and she's like this, basically the help for this house, like she lived and slept in like the pig pens and like just was treated like garbage. And she was taken in by this Tassier, I think her name was, something like that, the sorceress that kind of led the Brotherhood trainings, or I can't remember. But she like was taken in with her, and then kind of just because she realized that she had these powers. And then I think that was mostly episode 2, where the Brotherhood and like the maids training and all that, and that was just so freaking cool. I think their take on magic and spellcasting, and the necessity for sacrifice in order to create. Like when they were holding like she wasn't holding anything and she created, and her hand just like shriveled up. That one girl, like, you need sacrifice, or you need like it has to be a balance. And so they would hold a flower and the flower would die, then they'd create something out of it. Like, I don't know,
Just like Full Metal Alchemist, bro.
yeah, dude, seriously. And I
Equivalent exchange.
love that. I think that's so smart. And they had to catch lightning in a bottle, literally, and that was also a metaphor about their power and how to wield it and utilize it, and especially for Yennefer, who's got so much built up anger because of how she was how she was raised in her life, that she has all this power as well. And
they're supposed to suppress that emotion, right? That otherwise it does suck you up if you don't suppress the emotion.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
There's a lot of, so the Brotherhood, and Zach can jump in and correct me, whatever, but from what I've seen, the Brotherhood was all about like the right way to be a mage. Like you discover, you enhance, and you kind of not contain, but you wield it in a way where it's helpful and beneficial, and then you're kind of assigned to like a house or a castle to be their like on their court or on their at their table to be like their representative mage or something.
Yeah, so yeah, essentially, mages are often in a quite a similar fashion built, but similarly to how witches are built, except that sometimes like wealthy families will send their daughters to be mages just because, like, oh, it's a great honor if you become a mage. But like, there's a lot of I would call them parallels or metaphors through the mage's kind of system and arc that kind of parallel um, almost like a women's boarding school. Like you might have power, but you have to suppress it, and you have to go to this school and learn how to be proper, and then you have to get beautiful, and then once you get all those things, then you get to serve a king, and like be like, and that's the greatest honor for you is to like be this king's servant basically and serve in a castle. And so yeah, I just feel like that's essentially, without getting like political or anything, like that is the arc of a good mage. A good mage is powerful but not too powerful, is does sacrifices whatever they need to sacrifice to be beautiful, and gets a job in a castle serving a king.
But it's not just females, right? There are male mages. Like it's
No. So there's not male mages. There's sorceresses and magisters. And sorceresses are exactly what I just outlined,
mm-hmm.
and magisters are like a whole different thing. Magisters are, they can be independent. They can do what they want, or they can work in the Brotherhood as like leaders of the Brotherhood, assigning people different places. They can serve a castle or they can't. But a sorceress not assigned to a king is viewed as like dangerous and should be like eliminated, basically.
Wow. So even that in the magical world, the patriarchy, the male female dynamic is still very much
well, and that's by design.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So Mousesack,
like they're making a statement. Yeah.
So Mousesack he's a magister. He's not a mage.
Yeah, he's a magister.
Okay, but he seemed very similar. He chose to serve the queen. He wasn't assigned. Yeah. Okay. Wow, I didn't pick. Yeah, I missed that big time. I didn't know that the male magisters have a choice and the female mages are just assigned. It's just like a princess in court, I guess. They're assigned their husband or their spouse by the higher order. Interesting. Okay, so anyways, her story was really great. I thought that was really cool how she discovered like her abilities, her powers, overcame her anger. She met Home Dude with the beautiful ass eyes, and they kind of fell in love. I don't remember where he was from, but he ended up being he's like a geologist or an archaeologist or something, and
some fuckboy.
Yeah, I don't know. He was really. I don't know. I got the feels during that because they had some connection. He saw her for who she was, even when she was ugly, and then she has this huge transformative surgery to get beautiful, and you have to sacrifice the ability to reproduce to do it. And then she becomes this banging ass sorceress, but she dips on Homeboy and goes to like pursue the ultimate power, and it's like.
Because that's what she always wanted.
I know.
Like Yennefer of Vengerberg is such a complex. So I think that Yennefer is easily the highlight of this series, and her origin story is the highlight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's particularly interesting because she's tortured and abused and goes through all of these things. And in that moment, while she's going through all these things, she's so convinced that she has nothing and that she needs this beauty and power to be happy or to find herself or to, that's what she needs in order to be okay. And once she gets that beauty and power, and she realizes that she was probably the most okay when she was not beautiful and powerful, but just actually loved for who she was in that cave by Fuckboy Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a weight that she bears even now, in the sense that she's beautiful and powerful now, but she knows that like she's still tortured, like she's still conflicted, and she's still miserable in a lot of ways, but she got what she needed to, and so she's she's kind of a tragic hero.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would agree. I think she is the highlight. She's the most interesting character by a long shot. I would argue to say they found a way to make The Witcher uninteresting. which is for me a feat because he's such a cool character, and he was just he like whenever he was on screen, like the cool part was the monster he was fighting or the battle he was a part of, but other than that, I was really disinterested personally.
Well, I think first of all, I agree with you, but I also think that they kind of have their hands full because Geralt is really like a kind of brooding, like there's a reason why Henry Cavill chose to have that voice for this character. That's what he sounds like in the game. I mean, like that's like literally his character. He's just like fuck, like that's him. And so fuck. It's really it's hard as an actor to and writers to say, all right, like this guy's gonna be like this brooding, tough, badass type of guy. But then also, you know, we want the audience to like find so much out about him and walk away with all these like nuances and ideas about who he is through his own vulnerability. Like that, those are juxtapositions. And so what I think they did, and I again I agree with you that like he came off not as interesting as other characters, but they really kind of set this entire season up as like a session zero. Because honestly, the real story doesn't even start. Like, it just began in the very last episode of the season. Like, all of this just felt like, all right, we're just going to, like, lay down a foundation. This is going to be a baseline. This is Yennefer. This is Geralt. This is Ciri. You know, this is fucking the Bard, whatever. And then, you know, they do some shit, and then, oh, shit, what's that thing in the sky? Weird. All right, wait till next season. Like, that thing in the sky is that actual story. And so I think that they chose to keep Geralt brooding and mysterious to try to have more impactful moments with him later.
And I agree with you. I think that his character is difficult to portray in an interesting way, and I think that that's why it was so smart to have really 3 main characters all at once, and especially one of them was so as complex as Yennefer. Like, was Yennefer in the video game at all?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. So she's the most polarizing character by far, and I guess Henry Cavill kind of is a great casting because Superman's so fucking bland, and so is The Witcher that it just works. I guess not everybody can be brooding and interesting like Ryan Gosling can in Blade Runner Drive, you know, really anything he wants to do. But some characters can't pull it off, and unfortunately. Superman doesn't.
I don't know. I think that Henry Cavill did a decent job as Geralt. I'm not super. When I found out about the casting, I was like, oh god, what the fuck. But I didn't hate it. I actually you know, even you Jordan, you found out that Geralt seems to give a shit.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something. And I think that I don't love every second of his Geralt like I feel like most people do, or at least the reviews that I've seen. But like I said, I think that I guess what I'm saying is I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. I think that if they keep him mysterious and then let you learn about him in impactful moments later on in the story, then maybe that moment will have just a little bit more impact because you had to wait just a little bit longer. And so that's what I'm hoping for.
This sounds very familiar. Kind of like something we just talked about a couple weeks ago on The Mandalorian. With the protagonist, like, just give it till season 2, man. Just trust me, it's gonna get better. You're gonna get more interested in him.
Yeah. No, actually, I just had an image of the Mandalorian's helmet. It's yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just an optimist these days. I don't know.
Getting soft on us, bro. No, I think that he didn't do a bad job at all. I just don't think the character's hard to portray. The one thing that I was kind of annoyed by was just his over interest in other people. Like, I get that you care, but like he was so willing to go out of his way to do whatever it took to save the Bard, and like he was just like the Bard was cool and funny, but also annoyed him and didn't give him really much benefit. Maybe he saved him a couple times with some minor conversations he had with people, but I just feel like he was so like concerned about other people. Like it made me not believe it as much that he's.
I think that Geralt low-key likes the fact that he's famous. And that's why he's so interested in the Bard.
Oh, so the Bard's fame that he created with his songs and tales.
Yeah, the Bard is constantly like writing down Geralt's story and singing songs of his heroics and doing that. Like the Bard is essentially Geralt's like hype man / Bilbo Baggins, like writing the book. And I think that Geralt likes that. Like Geralt wants to be known, be bigger than what he is. Like I think he's vain. I think it's vanity.
I like that take, actually. I didn't think about that, but if that is the case, he doesn't show it very much. But I would like to believe that, because that makes me more open to him as a character. Like that's a side that I wasn't expecting. I guess going into episodes 4 through 7, it's really just so you like there's a relationship that builds between Yennefer and Geralt. They kind of, I don't know. There's a whole djinn involved with wishes, and Yennefer tries to obtain ultimate power, and Geralt wants to save her because he doesn't think that she can handle it, so he wishes that she would survive it.
She wants to become, she's sterile because of her procedure, so she wanted to be, this is what her goal is, to have a offspring, right? Child.
She wants the choice. So she is trying to summon the djinn, and which by the way, the fucking Geralt was gonna catch it, and the Bard fucked it up. That really pissed me off. Oh man, it's so annoying. It's like Chris Pratt in fucking Endgame. But she wants to capture the djinn, and she thinks that she can obtain its power. She can make herself not, what's it, potent? I don't even know what the freaking word is. But she wants to be able to reproduce, and then like when he goes, "What do you want?" Like Geralt's yelling at her while she's like summoning this thing, and he goes, "What do you want?" And she goes, "Everything." Like she wants to be beautiful, powerful, and be able to. She basically wants to have everything. So
she just wants to be like complete.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wants to be full, and not like sexually, but like she is missing something, and she's like, imagine like she's just taking swings in the dark trying to find the object in the room that she knows is out there somewhere, but she can't. Her hands keep coming up with air. But the thing is that, you know, she thinks she finds something in like her power, but then like, oh wait, no, that's nothing. And her beauty, oh wait, no, that's nothing. And then she's like, okay, well, what can it be? Oh, well, I had to give up my ability to reproduce. So maybe it's that. So she's just trying to fill herself with something.
Yeah. And I guarantee there's a lot of pride in that, because there was like the magister, whoever did the procedure to make her beautiful, but also not be able to reproduce. She feels like he's like, you won't be able to like reverse this, and I feel like she thinks that she could, because she's so powerful, and this is her trying to basically prove that as well. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of the relationship between her and Geralt. I don't know. I don't like.
It was very fast. It was very fast.
Yeah, it was quick. He tried to do the right thing, and she didn't like it because she felt like he was like she couldn't help her, like she couldn't do it herself, and he intruded. But she also, one thing that was interesting is he wished that she would be saved, or he whispers his wish, so you can't really hear it, but it's the last wish, and he wishes that she'd be okay when she's like summoning this djinn, and then the djinn leaves and she survives, and they fall in love kind of. But she thinks that he wished that they would fall, like they would be together, and so she thinks that her feelings towards him are magic and not actual how she feels, which is, and
we don't really know if that's the case or not.
Right. And I think that's really cool, because one of the lines that really sticks out to me that she says, and it's said a couple times, especially the last episode, is it's magic, it's not real. And I feel like that has so much to do with Yennefer and everything that she's been pursuing, and everything that she almost is. Like she wants this power, she wants this beauty, but everything that she actually wants is what she had when she was real, when it was real, like Zach was saying. And now all the stuff that she's created or whatever, it's all just, it's magic. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
So
she's chasing ghosts.
Yeah.
Trying to find something. And she doesn't even know what she's looking for.
Yeah, she's Sam Darnold out there.
What's interesting too about that is that Witchers are also sterile. So just something to note, that what she doesn't have, Geralt also doesn't have. And that's probably something that they could relate. Not a lot of people could relate to that.
Geralt doesn't think he has, until he finds out that the Law of Surprise has actually delivered him a daughter almost.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with his wiener.
Yeah. You're like, what's reproduction?
Yeah, that's true. That's
I
true.
gave up.
That's true. Okay, so in my opinion, episodes 1 through 3 were interesting and had enough to bring me in, even though it was kind of confusing. 4 through 7, I felt like it really dragged at points. Like the whole episode with the hedgehog knight, like that scene was so long, and I felt like it was. I guess it was necessary for the plot. Like it was what Pavetta was the queen, I think her name, that was like in love with him, and the queen's daughter, and she dies.
That's where they mix in with the king, right, of Tamil, where it's obviously fell in love with his sister, and then the daughter was cursed by that. During that whole time, though, is when I thought that was pretty cool, though, him fighting.
Those are Siri's parents. That's why it matters.
Gotcha.
No, I get why it matters. I just feel like it dragged on, especially when like they're like she's floating with him up in the sky or in the fucking center of the courtroom area or whatever, and like there's that tornado spinning around. Like they're up there for like a minute and a half, and everybody's just like staring at him in awe. It's like I don't know. It just took so long. I guess I'm just impatient, but
yeah,
I don't know. It was difficult for me to stay engaged for this kind of pocket because there wasn't a whole lot of action. There's a whole lot of like drama and Yennefer finding out she loves Geralt or doesn't. Geralt discovering that he loves her and has feelings but doesn't and wants to get her back. And then in the whole Ciri storyline, I mean, honestly, it was probably my least interesting part. Is just her running away and trying to find Geralt.
well, unknowingly, right? Because she didn't know exactly.
Well, she knew that. Yeah, she went before her.
She
her
just has a
grandma
name.
Died.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all she really has is a name.
Does she know that he's a Witcher?
No.
No.
She doesn't know anything about him. She just knows is some dude named Geralt who she needs to find.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which they were piecing that together more and more towards the end, like not at the beginning at all. That's where I was confused half the time,
right?
Because they didn't put that together, not in the third half. So I was like, "What the fuck is she?" Like I didn't understand. So I could see that part coming into play, which is a big deal with the court, and the queen having an issue and killing the hedgehog dude and finding out that promise and all that stuff. Then from there on, I started to get more and more of why things are going the way they're going. But that took a while to get there.
Yeah, it did. It did for sure. But then we find ourselves at the finale, and honestly, I mean, we've seen some epic medieval style battle scenes. We've seen Helm's Deep and Lord of the Rings. We've seen, several different episodes in Game of Thrones. There's so many kind of already big name battles out there, but this one I really felt like was so different and so fucking interesting to me with the sorcerers and the sorceresses and the battles and the way they use their magic in this final stand that I was blown away. I thought that the final battle was amazing and such a good ending. It's almost like the opposite of Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones was so interesting based off of the build-up and the whole like show, and it wasn't like the Flash. Like the dragons were cool, but really it wasn't the monsters or the White Walkers. It was the people and the drama that was so interesting that kept everybody engaged and the backstabbing and everything. And then the finale, which is a big fucking shit stain.
Let down.
Yeah, and this, like, the drama aspect of it was my least favorite part. The coolest part was the creatures and, like, the characters and the magic and everything. But then the finale was just, like, the exclamation point. Like, I thought that they just did such a good job with that last battle. And the styles of magic, from the worms coming out of the ground to infect the freaking people and take over their bodies, to, like, the girl bringing the spores out of the forest to, like, poison the air, like, the rocks they cursed and threw in the sky and like shot them with arrows and exploded and like fireworks. Like, I don't know. It was, or like the portal to shoot the arrows into the portal and it came out the other side and hit.
That was nuts.
Like,
yeah,
the way they utilize magic, or I keep going, but like the mages disintegrating themselves into fireballs and then putting them into a catapult and shooting it, and like they're like giving up their entire body to like just be an explosion to take out like a fucking castle side. Like,
she's like, have to? Do I have to do this?
Well, that's one of the things. Like the Brotherhood wouldn't allow fire magic because of the sacrifice you have to give to wield it, and like they're like, fuck that. Was the Nilfgaard? Is that the
Nilfgaard
the house?
Yep.
So that's one thing though. First off, is there anything you guys want to talk about the finale that really, like, the battle that?
No, I enjoyed
you
it.
guys' fancy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on all that. I I'm wondering if we should go around and say like, what did you think about the entire thing, or if you want to like go into like Nilfgaard deeper, or
Well, let
because
me
I
just
have like a full like, what did you think take.
Yeah, and we're not there yet. I just have a question about Nilfgaard, and then we'll open up the floor for that. So they were like a shit house, right? Like I know Yennefer was originally assigned to go there, but it was like she felt like she'd be slumming it, and so she didn't want to go there.
No, not at all. Nilfgaard
Okay.
is a very, very powerful um, empire. Like it's called the Nilfgaardian Empire, and they are very like I don't want to say religious because that doesn't. They're not religious, but they're very conservative. Like you got to look a certain way, you got to dress a certain way in Nilfgaard. You got to say this thing. You got to like curtsy 3 times if you see the emperor. Like it's very like conservative, nitpicky kind of thing, and they have a very like estranged relationship with magic and magic users, and it's not always positive. Like they've done like some gnarly shit, like just like massacre sorceresses just because they're sorceresses, like Salem witch hunt type shit. So yeah,
So that's
Yeah.
why Yennefer didn't want to go there because of
Yeah,
the
but
history.
Fringilla
there
is the
wouldn't she
mage's.
if she would have went there, she probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have been treated well.
Yeah,
But Fringilla goes there instead, and it
which
seems
is
like
yeah.
embraces it, right? Like she's like, this is what I've been
Yeah,
looking for.
she's into it. Yeah, she's into it. But she's also doing a lot of fucked up shit. Like
Yeah.
like having those mages fucking melt themselves down into fireballs and shit. Like Fringilla she likes it, but she's I don't know. It's fucked up.
Yeah,
It's not a good place to be.
I almost felt like
Yeah.
she was like it was like a revenge kind of thing for her too. Like Yennefer came in and gonna take her spot or something, and like changed her, like how she was, because Fringilla seemed more when she was training was more like softer and naive about things, and now she's like this hard ass woman who doesn't see magic the same way as Yennefer. She sees magic more as like as a weapon instead of like to make you, I guess, better. Is right.
Yeah.
I get right. Yennefer feels like it can make her stronger, make her. Fringilla uses it more like a weapon and like a hammer. She's like, I'm gonna I'm gonna hit you with this.
Yeah, and I also think too that Fringilla uses it however Nilfgaard needs her to use it.
Correct.
Like that's like important. Like Fringilla doesn't have really like her own opinions don't matter really anymore. Now that she's in Nilfgaard, she's
like brainwashed, right? Like almost.
Yeah, you could call it brainwashed, but I think it's more like squeezed. Like she has to do this or else she doesn't have a choice.
Gotcha.
She doesn't have a choice.
Okay.
And but she also embraces it too. So I think it's complex.
Yeah, that's honestly my biggest. Like, I figured out the timeline and everything. I got there, and I figured out the storyline and the people. I didn't really understand Nilfgaard. Like, that was one thing that I didn't feel like maybe I missed it or it just wasn't touched on enough. But like them just like being the ultimate evil force that's been taking out all these like cities and taking over the continent. Like, I didn't fully understand why or how they became this power and what their mission was. But
imagine Nilfgaard as like Alexander's the Great, like Alexandria just expanding, because that's what's essentially happening. It's not necessarily that they're evil. It's more just that they're really powerful and they're expanding. And Sintra and all these other kind of kingdoms are just in their way. Like they're just conquering. They're conquerors. They're just trying to fucking conquer shit. And that's why in the beginning the lioness, the Queen of Sintra, was like, Nilfgaard's been trying to attack us for centuries, but blah blah blah, like they're never gonna do it. Like it wasn't a surprise to them that Nilfgaard was like trying to take Sintra. Because that's what Nilfgaard does, but it just so happened that this time they were successful in doing so.
Okay. Well, that answers my question, and that gives me a more well-rounded understanding of the entire plot of season 1. This week we don't have a Beneath the Ink, but Captain Coldhard, Zachariah of Newcastle, has claimed he has some sizzling hot takes about The Witcher. So here's your platform, Z. What do you got for us, man?
So I think that I've watched this through, and I've watched it twice actually through,
Wow.
and I have been like really looking into like a lot of people's opinions, like reviews, other content creators, what they think, and I feel like I have a really unpopular opinion here, and the opinion I have is that I was super fucking disappointed in the show. Like I just feel like they didn't. So I think that it's a combination of a couple things. First, I think that based on the success of the franchise, the kind of expectations were really high. Um, I don't think that this show was bad, but I think that it did not meet those expectations. I think that Yennefer was the highlight in the show. I think that Henry Cavill's Geralt was just pretty bland. And I think that Siri just didn't even matter at all. Like every time it went to a Siri scene, I felt like it was just a waste of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like I was just like, why? Like every time it went to Siri running away from something or being in some forest or whatever the fuck, I felt like, all right, well, the party is with Geralt and Yennefer. Like, why am I want to hang out with the party. I want to be where the cool kids are, not where this garbage. Like, I don't care. And I think that that's just because they never really gave me a reason to give a shit about Siri. Like, she just seemed random to me, and everything that happened to her and everything she did seemed inconsequential. Um, and the other thing is that I am obviously a huge fan of the game. I've spent so many hours playing that game, and I am fucking furious, dude, about one thing and one thing only.
Brace yourselves.
Triss Marigold. Triss Marigold. Do you guys know who that is in the show?
Triss, the girl that had like the built that wall out of sticks to stay like kind of protect
Yes.
the gate at the end. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So in the game, Geralt is like a ladies' man. Like that's like kind of part of his whole
That's
thing.
what I thought was
Geralt's
so
like,
funny because like they're like witchers are mutants and gross and like he's banging out all these chicks in the whole show.
Yeah. Geralt cleans up. But in the game, you're locked into this love triangle with Yennefer and Triss, and you have to essentially choose who you love. And if you try to choose them both, then you end up with nobody. Well, gentlemen, I was a very vulnerable person while I was playing this game, and I fell in love with a video game character, and I fell in love with Triss. And Triss is, first of all, she looks completely different. Like they did not even try to get that character right in the show.
I'm looking her up
Second
right
of
now.
all, Triss is like a huge character, like just as big as Yennefer, if not bigger in the game. And the show basically was just like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pick Yennefer and then fuck Triss, and we're just gonna make her a side character, and we're gonna make her look completely different. Like we don't even care. Like Triss isn't gonna be part of this. And as a fucking Triss lover and representative, I'm furious. I am furious, and I'm not the only one. There's got to be people out there in the world who have also chosen Triss who must be feeling the same pain.
So
They make Yennefer badass as shit, and they make Triss trash, and I just can't stand it.
just can't stand it. Okay. Well, how about you just cap that off with your craft or trash rating, Zach? Where you
Fucking
putting?
trash, dude.
Oh yeah. What's your number, dog?
I mean, they make Yennefer pretty cool, but I'm jaded, bro. Like, even when I'm watching cool-ass Yennefer scenes, I'm like, wow, where's Triss? Like, can Triss get an origin story or not? Oh, we're just not going to do that? All right, word.
Nah, bro.
So, I don't know. I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Wow.
Okay. JR? Craft or trash?
Ooh, I'm gonna give it a craft. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was interesting. I'm not used to. I can't remember last time I watched some kind of fantasy type of show. Medieval type of stuff. I think maybe Spartacus was maybe the closest thing, but I did enjoy the I did enjoy the forum of it, like the type of show it was. So, and I don't know anything the way that Zach knows stuff. So, I mean, everything was new and like
Sounds like that's a good thing.
yeah.
Jordan.
Which just seems like there's a lot to this thing. It seems like there's a lot of story and
Also, Ciri's the most important character in the show, and like nobody gives a shit about her. By the
yeah,
end of this season.
not a yeah. And see that I had no clue.
No.
I had no clue who was the main, other than obviously Superman. I had no idea who was what or what was important. Obviously
Because they forced you to care about Yennefer, who should not even be the main character in this story.
yeah, and I didn't know that because I thought Yennefer was a main character in the story, and
I mean, she is now, bro, because they
yeah.
fucking rammed it down your throat.
So, and Trish, I think she only popped up a couple times. So I mean, until Zach's rant, I had no clue about anything. I'm looking her up now, and seeing that how a lot of gamers don't like it, that comparison who played this game. So I'm gonna give it a like a 6.5.
6.5. All
6.5.
right.
Trish was so cute, bro. She had red hair, freckles. Yennefer was like cold and like calculating, but Trish was like just good and warm. Just wanted nothing good for everything good for the world. And she was just as powerful as Yennefer. But nobody's ever gonna know that because we're forced Yennefer down our throat.
The world will know, Zach. They'll know because of you and your gospel that you're preaching.
Yeah, we'll post some stuff.
Well, I gave it a craft. I gave it a 7. And the reason I did was because I thought that the magic was really cool. The take on spellcasting I really enjoyed in this. I love the sacrifice that comes with. It makes it much less appealing and more like just dark and gritty kind of. I thought that the monsters were really cool. And you get that from the opening scene, really, with that giant freaking spider thing he fights in that little pond. Like, every monster he fights is just really cool, and that's something that I really enjoy. Like, at the very least, I was entertained every time I watch a show. I do think that the story kind of jumps around a little bit. There's limited backstory on like the houses and like the families and the people besides Citra, and I did get lost a little bit there. As long as the timelines, I mean, when different eras and different times, it's hard to keep up sometimes. So I got a little jumbled there, and honestly, I thought it dragged. I liked Yennefer. And then I didn't like Yennefer very much, and then she closed it out cool. So that was interesting. But I agree. I think that she was a little bit too much at times, and there was a lot of Yennefer, and I didn't know anything about Ciri, and honestly still don't really. And I agree. Her storyline was bland and kind of boring. Like, she went to the Children of the Forest or whatever, and that really didn't have anything to do with anything. And then she left, and I don't know. It was okay with her, but I think that the Yennefer storyline was really cool, and I think that we did, for the most of this episode, talk about what the characters were struggling with and what their decisions they had to make and how they were kind of transcribed. And I think that's something that, like, for instance, we didn't do at all in The Mandalorian because that just wasn't there. And it was present here. And I think that it says something. So it's interesting to me, Zach, because I gave it 4.5 for Mandalorian, and Zach did not like that. But I don't strongly disagree with your opinion here, Zach, especially since you know so much more about the source material. Obviously a little biased, but I have been there, and I respect that. So yeah,
I'm biased. I'm not even gonna like pretend that I'm not. I'm super biased. I'm my 4.5 is coming like through a rage. Like, I'm raging giving it a 4.5.
So that all encompasses a 6. So a craft score, but just barely makes the cut.
Just barely.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm a little surprised. I thought that Z would be a little more into it, but now that I know that his boo thing was not given the respect she deserves.
Well, he's got background. He's got background on it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I have not looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score. What do we got from the people, Z?
I'm looking at it right now. The people's score is 93%.
Is that critics or audience?
Audience.
What the critics got it at?
The critics have it at 66.
Are we getting closer to the critics? Are we getting away from the people?
It seems so. It seems lately it seems that we have become critics. We are officially professionals at this.
Oh shit.
After years and years of practice, we have become professional assholes.
Okay, people, just don't get into podcasting about reviewing shit, because you're just going to start to pick it apart to a point where you don't even enjoy it anymore, and you're just going to be critiquing everything. Stay good. Stay here.
All the critics are probably like nerd ass gamers like me and just as pissed about Triss.
That's probably it. Yeah, you're
That's
probably
probably
right.
true.
Nothing to do with the jumbled story arc or the fucking absentee Nilfgaard backstory. It's the Triss.
It's the fucking disrespect, bro.
It's the Triss diss.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up the season of The Witcher. Is there anything you guys want to put in there before we sign off? Is there any other hot takes, or are you fed up with talking about your girl?
I mean, y'all know what hill I'm on, so that's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, now do you feel like you died on it, or do you feel like you were pretty? I feel like we're all pretty close.
I was honestly anticipating you guys like being like so like, oh my god, this is so good, it's like the best show ever, I fucking love it, dude, Henry Cavill's got so many fucking abs, bro, my god, I'm so hard right now. Like, I thought that was gonna be
male physique,
the conversation that I was gonna have for an hour.
It's a safe guess.
And I was ready to go to war, but it seemed that you guys were a lot more down to earth. You guys were a lot more critic-esque today, as opposed to just fans.
We were a little more level-headed, and that's also, there's no beverage breakdown, so we're pretty clear-headed right now. But once we get some more of those in there, the emotions will start flowing. All right, well that's all we got for this week. As always, thank you for listening. Please check us out at Hop Heroes Pod on Instagram, Twitter. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Spread the word, tell your friends, and shout out to JR with his Statue Sundays, man. Those things have been popping off, so keep those rolling. Peep him out every Sunday. Take a look at his statues. He's got some dope ones. Mysterio was a fucking that one's so cool. That was awesome.
That's our biggest post. I think it's at like 1,300 plus going, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, man.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, keep the support rolling. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you all next week.
Peace.